Hello, people. Welcome to these Boston Leader Stories again. Today we have a really good guy that I really appreciate, and we will be talking about the evolution and resilience of gaming industry. Welcome, Tom, and really thank you for being here. For you guys, Tom is a guy that I met a couple of months in Boston. When we were interviewing people over there to meet and to build a network, and I really like him. I think he really likes me too. So now we are having this conversation, and we are starting to work together. And what I really like about Tom is like he's really warm and welcoming. He was really nice when I met him in Boston. We went to legal seafood to eat. So thank you, Tom, for being here.
Well, thank you, Marcelo. It's a pleasure. Everything you said is true. I really enjoy you, and it's been a really good learning experience to learn all about VAIRIX and also about Uruguay.
Thank you very much, Tom. Well, for you guys, Tom is a seasoned gamification professional. He has a long career in the gaming industry. He used to be the CEO of Hasbro Interactive and Atari, and he worked in a lot of initiatives like the first Monopoly and McDonald's promotional partnership. And now Tom is involved in a lot of innovative projects like development of mobile game apps, augmented reality toys and TV game shows, interactive magic, and toy drones. I had to read that, Tom, because you are working in a lot of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I keep busy and I try to stay in my lane, which is primarily the game business.
Great. Thank you very much. And Tom, first of all, I would like you to introduce yourself. Apart from the things I said, what else have you done, and what are you working right now?
Sure. So my career is all in the game business, and it really breaks down to three different areas. I started it with Parker Brother Games, and I actually started on the loading dock. And 22 years later, I was running the company. So I think I have a really good foundation of what the game business is because I've basically done every single job within the game industry to get to the point that I was able to be a leader. And my career really is divided into three areas. Parker Brothers was where I got to work with some of the greatest brands in the world, such as Monopoly and Trivial Pursuit and Scrabble and Star Wars and Nerf. And then the second part of my career is that I became the CEO of Hasbro Interactive. And during that period of time, I was really engaged in doing major acquisitions because I was trying to find new content for the company. So during that period of time, I bought Spectrum Holobyte, I bought Microprose, I bought Avalon Hill, but I also bought Atari and I bought Wizards of the Coast. And Wizards of the Coast turned out to be one of the greatest acquisitions of all time from a toy and game industry perspective because of Magic the Gathering and because of Dungeons and Dragons. And in 2001, I was given an opportunity to exit the corporate world and to become an entrepreneur and run Dusenberry Entertainment. And from that time forward, I've been very focused on mobile games. I've built and sold several mobile game companies. And I've also been involved in like physical products. This also has a virtual element to it. And most recently, I went down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I built the NASCAR heat business for the sport NASCAR. And currently what I'm doing is you mentioned earlier is I'm doing a lot of interactive magic type work, but I'm also very involved in drone soccer and other drone activities. So I stay very much in the game industry, but I'm also very focused on not only software applications, but also physical applications that use software to enhance what the experience is all about.
That's great, Tom. What a huge and fun career. That looks great. And for you guys, we have started to work with Tom a couple of months ago to grow our footprint over there in Boston and to try to gamificate our strategy over there as well. So I wanted to ask you, Tom, what attracted VAIRIX to you?
I think that to me, most importantly, I look for quality. And with VAIRIX, I really found that the products that I looked at and the clients that you worked with, you represent a quality proposition in the marketplace. So that was the foundation that I was really liked. And then, spending time with you, Marcelo, it meant a lot from a point of view that I think that, you're a genuine guy. And I think that you really want to be client service oriented. And I really like that from a proposition perspective. So I think
Thank
that
you.
that's really important. And then when I further went and did my research, I found out there was this little magical place called Uruguay. And when I started to do the research about the country, it was fascinating from a point of view that it's a really solid population, but the country clearly put a focus on education. And the result of that is all the great people that are VAIRIX that are so well trained and so well educated and pretty global from a point of view of being able to interact and engage with different parts of the world.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, for your comments about myself, VAIRIX, and Uruguay. I really appreciate that. And going to the gaming industry, how do you think it's adapting to change? It's changing a lot. The world is changing a lot. There are a lot of new things. And how do you think that like the industry is adapting to that?
I think that it's been an amazing experience for me because when I first started in the game industry, the entire game industry was basically board and card games, and it was a $50 million business. Today, the game industry is a $250 billion business. And so it's just grown so dramatically. And the reason for that is really technology. So if you think about the PC or you think about the mobile or you think about the video game business, it's all driven by technology. And so I think that we're continuing to see advances in technology, and then the question becomes is what's the application, what that technology is, and that comes down to the consumer experience. And it's all about the fun. And so what need to do is we need to merge game design and game technology into a format that creates an experience that's really first fun the first time you play it, but that then creates an environment where you want to go back and play over and over because it's a social situation and it's also an opportunity to play a favorite game of yours.
That's great, Tom. And do you think like the industry adapt like reactively to changes, or it can anticipate like the next wave and what's going to come? And how do you think the industry reacts to those things?
I think that the industry finds itself continuing to grow bigger and bigger, and what happens is a new technology comes on, such as what happened with World of Warcraft, and it created a multiplayer type of an environment, right? And then it grew from that into competitive type stuff, where all of a sudden esports was very important, where you could have 4-on-4 players and things like that. And so to me, what I see is that new technology is always layering on and creating new opportunities within the marketplace. And so as a technologist, what you want to do is you want to know what's and understand what the current business is, but you want to say, what can I do to get out of that box and to make a transition from a consumer perspective that heightens the experience even more because of the fun that the technology delivers.
Well, that remind me a lot of my youth. I used to be a really active player of World of Warcraft, and actually, my mother was really concerned about it because I spent like a lot of nights playing. And I think like the most amazing part for me was like the social part. It's like I couldn't stop playing because you have to be there because all your friends and your colleagues are playing. So that was a big game changer for me. And going to that point, what do you think is like the most big game changing shift that has happened to the game industry in the last couple of years?
I think that you just kind of nailed it, and that is that if you look at like Fortnite as an example, it's so much more than a game. Fortnite is like a media experience for the consumer, and I think this is going to happen more and more with these major pieces of IP that are in the marketplace. So with Fortnite, you can not only play the game, but that's where you go and see all your friends and you do all your social networking. But there's also music concerts that they provide, and there's opportunities for you to be able to meet new people. So to me, it becomes like a mega media environment within the game that kind of addresses all the different types of requirements you have as a consumer to really have fun.
That's great. That's great. And a lot of these big tech shift, they doesn't stick to the game. So I've seen a lot of stuff like motion control and stuff like that they were going to be really big at first, but they then didn't succeed at all. What do you think that some new technology has to have like to be a stick in the industry?
Yeah, that is there again, that's another good example. And to me, it's an example of where motion, you really didn't make full mass market, but it did create another niche. And it was kind of like interactive fitness. And so that became like a new genre that people wanted to continue to pursue. And I kind of see that with the headsets right now, or the VR products. Those products are really kind of good right now for a specialized market that is looking for that very immersive type of experience. But to me, until we get to the point that we have glasses that we can see through as well as be able to have the immersive experience, it probably won't become completely mass market.
Nice, nice. That's great, Tom. And going to the business part of the industry, how do you do to balance the creativity with business demands, especially like in rough times that like the ones that we are going through?
I think that it all comes down to it's all about the fun, and the industry has become so dynamic now. It's amazing. On the one hand, I can work on a project that unless I can get $10 or $15 million up front, I can't really get started with the project. It's got such high tech in it, and it's got so many engineering requirements and things like that. So that's one end of the business. On the other hand, I'm working with a company right now that hasn't spent a penny on their game, and yet, because of the fact that it's a browser-based game, they're actually able to go to the marketplace in the next 2 to 3 months and to test the product and see if they can find an audience, and then from that build up in a different way. So I guess, Marcelo, what I'm saying is that the game industry has many different ways for you to be able to access, depending on what your capabilities are, what your skill set is, and then how many resources you have to be able to really maximize the business.
Great. And on that topic, Tom, I've seen a lot of backlash when games try to over monetize or do like a lot of microtransaction, or you have to pay like to be in the same level as other players. How do you think it's a good balance from that? Because I've seen a lot of games that when they are like really trendy, they try to make a lot of money, and it's like it doesn't work all the times.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than enjoying a game and all of a sudden you've got an intrusive experience because you've got to watch 3 minutes worth of ads. So there's no question that's a problem, and it's an issue with what the flow is. So generally, what I try to do is I try to work with advertisers that are aligned with the game, so that there's some type of connection between the game and what the advertising is. And then I really try to work with our designers and the advertisers to try to embed that message from the game into the advertising and the advertising into the game so that it's less intrusive and it's more kind of thorough as it relates to you go through the whole thing. And I'm really, very focused on the issue of what ads are in the mobile business, and it's kind of like a tough situation from a point of view that on the one hand it's free to play, so it should be free. On the other hand, because it's free to play, you have to have the advertising, and there has to be a strict balance between the gameplay experience and then what the advertising is. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the players are just going to leave and go off to another game. And that's actually another pet peeve of mine from a point of view that a lot of times I'm playing in a game and the advertising that's coming up to me is saying, "Hey, leave the game you're playing and come play my game instead." And I just can't comprehend why game companies would allow that to happen in their game, because basically what they're doing is selling their content to be able to advertise to people to say, "Hey, go play another competitor's type of a game."
Yeah, and I think like a lot of those games don't really last a lot of years. So that's what my next question is about. What do you think like makes a game iconic and could work as a franchise afterward, like and it lasts a lot of years?
I think that generally, it has to be a popular theme. So, something that somebody can resonate with. But then, the experience needs to be positive from an immediate point of view. But then the game has to have some level of depth to it from a point of view that to say, "Hey, I really like that," and "Hey, I can do better," and "Geez, I really enjoyed what the theme was." And then the ultimate test is when you're done playing it for the first time, you have in your mind to say, "Geez, I'd like to go back and play that again," which is repeat play. So, in the game industry, there's really two key elements to being able to make a successful game. The first is it's got to be a fun game, and the second is it's got to attract an audience. So a lot of times, your theme may apply to an audience so that you can have that crossover so that you can have the beginning of what an audience is. But then if you do find an audience, you need to retain that audience. So you need to deliver new content and new ideas and fresh perspectives for those people that want to come back and play over and over again. So it's a pretty sophisticated challenge to be able to create a fun new game and then to make it successful and endearing in the marketplace because of those elements of fun gameplay and then audience building.
Great answer, Tom. And do you think like games like the older ones like Mario or Zelda and stuff like that are games that were they have like a lasting appeal, or they play to nostalgia? Because I there were the one of the first game I played like Mario when I started playing. So I think like maybe people still play that kinds of games because they remember the youth and stuff like that. Or do you think they have like a successful recipe and they keep people keep playing them because they are really good?
So with Mario as an example, it's been around for 40 years, and and it's as fresh and as relevant today as it's ever been. I mean, it's just one of those super games. But I also think that here again, you touch on an important point that I think is going to happen over the next generation, and that is that what we're going to be seeing is we're going to see multi-generational game experiences, and that means is that if you want to play Mario, you'll probably play with your son, and you'll probably play with your dad. And so those three different generations will all be having the same type of fun, and it'll bring families together from a point of view that they are all having the same experience and they're enjoying the game and they're talking about it and things like that. So, to me, I do think a big trend of the future, which is going to make the game business even bigger than ever, is multi generational game experiences.
Great, Tom. Going to the not uh, that successful stories, do you have like in the top of your head a game that should have been like a franchise and succeed a lot, but it didn't make it?
Yeah, that's kind of like a painful type of a question because you never like to see
Yeah.
your games fail. But I introduced a game into Nintendo called the Glover, and the Glover was a really cute little product from a point of view that it was a four-fingered glove, and the opportunity was that it was a character and it went through the entire game and it tested well. It was really the kids seemed to really like it, and it had all kinds of positive things to it, and we brought it into the marketplace and it was a complete dud. And unfortunately, I bought a couple 100,000 units of that product, and it was a very painful product, not only from a point of view that it failed in the marketplace, but it was also a financial failure from my perspective. So the lesson learned was that the game I think was good, but the advertising was not as good. And so
Okay.
those things all have to come together to be able to do that. And we weren't able to break through the clutter to have people that wanted to play Glover to understand it and say, I'd like to purchase that and try it.
Great. Thank you for the answer and for your story, Tom. And going to that, trying not to fail, or what do you think are the biggest challenge that the gaming startups face today in this like recovery market that we are going through, and like the challenge and the opportunities that they have?
I think that the biggest challenge I think that the industry is facing right now is that it's a Me Too industry, and that is that if one shooter is successful, let's do 600 other shooters and see if they're good as well. And to me, there are certain categories that are just overdone. And so if I were in the market today and I were recommending somebody to be able to get into the marketplace, I would say is get out of the box, try to do something that's a little bit different and a different type of an experience to find a different audience, because all the products that you want to say, oh, I can do a better shooter game, or I can do a better role play strategy game, or I can do something like that, there's a lot of competition for you to fight against. Versus if you have a unique play pattern or a unique theme, that might attract a new audience, and all of a sudden you can become the new mega IP of the future.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And people try to replicate what succeeded for others, and it's really a difficult thing to do. And for to close this podcast, Tom, I would like to know which is your vision for the industry's recovery? I think we are in this loop that gaming industry is ramping up and it will grow a lot. But love to hear your thoughts on that and what's your vision.
Yeah. So I think that the industry is going through some changes right now from a point of view that there seems to be more product in the marketplace than there's appetite for those games. So that's kind of an issue that we need to deal with. But I also think that what has happened is that there's two game markets you have to focus on. One is that these mega IPs such as World of Warcraft and Call of Duty and League of Legends, those games are just here. They've got major audiences. So to fight against those type of games is really challenging. But I do think that the new game companies of the future are going to find new game patterns and new themes that they'll be able to bring to the marketplace, and that'll create new genres and new opportunities for players to be able to come in and add on to what we're already doing currently.
Great, Tom. What do you think? Like for to close, what do you think? Like trendy stuff like AI will play in the next generation of big games. Do you see that as a positive thing to work on, or do you think that as a risk? How do you see AI in games?
I think that AI is the biggest opportunity change that the industry has ever seen. I also think that AI is the biggest risk that the industry has ever seen, and there's got to be a balance between those two things. For me personally, I am deeply involved in AI on multiple different levels, including just from a point of view of doing projects and being able to do research. But I'm also very involved in generative AI and being able to incorporate new features in games based upon using generative AI to be able to heighten the experience from the player's perspective. So to me, AI is very critical for the future of the business. But I also think that we will probably see in the next 10 years, finally see virtual reality become mass market. I think Meta is way out front. I think they're doing a really great job with that. But I also think that they still have limitations that they have to overcome. And as technology advances, I do believe that VR is going to be a huge part of the business just because of the virtual aspect and the immersive experience that it can bring to the players.
Well, I have a last question to close the interview, but I think you already answered. I was going to ask, what's like a bold prediction about the future of gaming? But I think you went there with VR and AI. Do you have any other prediction like to the game industry?
The other thing I would think is that the bold prediction is that the mobile device is going to become almost parallel to the video game business from a point of view of its processing power. And to me, I think that that means is that that's going to go through another revolution because you're going to have AAA games that are going to be on the mobile device, and you're also going to have very simple type quiz games and things like that. So that is just going to be such a multi-purpose platform from a game point of view that I think that that'll be a huge growth opportunity for the future.
Great, great. Really, really appreciate your time and your openness, not Tom, as always. And we are closing this podcast today. And thank you very much, as always.
Well, thank you, Marcelo. It's a pleasure, and I really enjoy working with you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are closing these Boston leader stories with Tom in the evolution and resilience of the gaming industry. I invite you to stay tuned for the next podcast. Thank you.